All right, we're back, and this is another Pixitron session. This one's not going to be very long, I think, but we'll see. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of that equals, because we didn't need it. It was bothering me from the last video. It was like staring me in the face. Only one equals inside of these selects, and I put 2 because in programming you have to have 2 a lot of the time, or 3 in this case. So anyway, we've got this this going here. We've got a lot of functions fleshed out in game. There's probably some other ones we want. One is that we want to get back a list of games. Can join games, right? What games can a user join? Give me a list. So we're going to look that up now. So the joinable games right now are going to be any game, because we're not going to do the password thing yet. Well, I don't know, I guess we could. Takes a minute. Let's see. So we want to get back all of the games that a user can join. Well, even a password game is joinable if you have the password. So we would put it in the list, but we would put a little lock icon on it. So we're going to get back all the joinable games. Pretty simple one, actually. So the first thing we're going to do is get the active games for a user. So we're going to go with active games equals, well, down here. After creating the model, we're going to go G, and then what was it called? Active games for user. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're already in the game screen, so a lot of this is superfluous to the client. So you should be able to see other games without having to worry about that. So we're just going to get back really any game that's not started, rather, in the lobby. So we're going to get games by status, and then the status is going to be equal to game status lobby. All right. And we don't even have to store this. We can just return it outright. Okay. So we assume that this is going to be a list that the user doesn't see when they are in their own lobby. And that if we wanted to, we could show them in some pop-up window and they could switch to that, canceling their game. So there's got to be a option to join. So there was add user to game, but there has to be an option to join the game. A lot of this will make more sense once we have the JavaScript figured out on the other side and sort of like what the UI is going to look like. So that probably means that we're going to get out of this eventually and draw some pictures. Some mock-ups, as they're called, or wireframes, just some sketches of what we think this is going to look like. We may not even go that far. We might just build something and see where that goes. Okay, so that gets us can join games is probably not necessary, just joinable games. We should probably start putting some of these into the model or into the API. To do that, I'm going to duplicate the session. All right. Now I have 2 copies. All right. And we'll just go to where it is. And we're going to start editing the index first. Well, actually, we don't need to anymore because now we're just doing this at the end. So instead, we're going to edit the API. Is that a shred? It is. Okay. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to be able to, we have friend, we need to start setting up what all of these are going to pass through. So this pass through here is, the pass through is here, and it's the endpoint index. And this is where, we map things. So there is a create, there's got to be a join. All right. All right. And there's got to be, let's see, there's join. What other actions? Let's see. There's list. Okay, and that's the one we just kind of wrote. So we've got all that. So we've got to go down here. We're creating new stuff. And we've got to create them here. What other ones can we create while we're in here? There's friend join list. Leave. We're going to need the leave action. So leave. You're trying to leave a game. Leave lobby, really. And we got to ready up. And then for the host, there's start game. Okay. So start is going to be like, everybody's ready. Well, let's do it. And then the game status changes. And what else? We have to get messages. What are messages? Messages sound like, well, there's chats. That's a different thing. Messages are going to be things like, hey, it's time, like server. Well, those are notifications, really, I guess. So we'll call that notes, get notifications. And then there's send. So sending a chat or sending a private message to someone. What else? Well, eventually we're going to need play, which plays your turn. All right, so now we have a bunch of them. So there's leave lobby, ready up, start game. Get notifications. We'll just call it chat. Well, yeah, all right. And then play turn. We'll call this chat. So what chat will do, so these are two-sided. Every single request is two-sided. And we're going to need one final one, which is update. So let's see, chat is going to send, so when you send your chat, you're going to get a response. Chat was sent, and you're also going to get a list of chat messages. And there may be a confirm, but let's make, what was that last one? It's like play turn and update turn. Or just update game, really. We can just call it update. All right, update game, update turn, update game. So, briefly, let's describe all these, but not here. Down at the bottom, list games, join lobby. Do we have a join lobby? We have a join lobby, leave lobby. Okay, let's just say what each one's for. So this is player wants to host a new game. Let's call it initiate. It's not really hosting. Here we've got player wants to add, remove, or block another player. That's what friend will be for. Join lobby is going to be for player wants to join a game. Right. There may be some other ones, right? Like join lobby. Oh, you need a password. Okay. List games. Player wants a list of joinable games. Leave lobby. Player wants to leave a game's lobby. Ready up. Player wants to indicate they are ready to start the game. Start game. Player who is initiator wants to start the game. Player wants any pending notifications sent. We should just call it notifications because actions can have sub-actions. Like some parameters to the action. So that's why I changed that name to chat. We'll call that notify. We'll just call it notify. It's just shorter. Player requesting chats or sending a chat. Play turn. Player is going to play. Player is sending their turn data. Player is updating. Player wants updated status of the game. So we're going to have a couple of things going on. So the idea is that you have a queue of information that the server holds onto and won't send until you request it. And that's fine because it's up to the client to decide when it's ready. And then it's up to the server to prepare that and send it back. And there may be some other rules that are implicated, like how many times you can do that per second. But essentially this will let people, these are all the channels we need, you know. A notification may include game's ready. So that stuff's all done in arrays and things, and then converted into JSON and sent to the player. in the form of a response. So that's all going to be done in here. Again, we're deferring create user until we think further on the matter, but we'll do that, you know. All right, let's start with the easiest thing, which is list games. So we have the JSON request. There are no parameters to this action. So we're going to prepare a response. So it's API data. So the first thing we have to do is go list equals, and then the list would be like game : list. Or not list, what was it? List, joinable games, right? We just wrote that. All right, so joinable games comes back as a list. I'm going to pass this user. Right? And the API data is simply going to be that list. I don't think we need to hide anything from the player about those games that are waiting, because if a user is blocked, it doesn't matter that they know that you're playing a game. I mean, this is a game. This is not like a social network where you have to fully hide the fact that the other person is there because they have a protection from abuse or something. Which does remind me, we would probably want to add a band tag to the ACL that the auth is going to do. So we'll get to that. But for now, we've got that. So now that request should work. I'm a little nervous to try it, but let's do it. So, in fact, we don't even have to have this list variable. So we can just say game joinable games this user. So see how this API class is very simple compared to if we had done all the logic in here as well. And obviously you don't want to be able to list the games if you're not logged in. So we're going to have to take this line here and put it down here. And I actually think there is a auth is logged in or something like that. But all of these are going to be like that. So we're just going to put them in here. You have to have a session. You have to already be logged in. You cannot be doing this anonymously for all of these steps. Okay. Duplicate is, dry. You probably should have put that into something. Didn't. All right, so we did that. I mean, I can go back in later. It's just, there's not that many. Create user is going to need no login because you're creating the user for the first time. And it's probably not create user. It's probably request account key to email. So that's probably a better way to handle that. You send it some data, it holds on to that data maybe, or maybe not. I think it would be, well, obviously it has to generate that key, so it's going to have to generate a database table. But we'll get to all of that. For now, we do have the one login, So let's see. What we should get back is an empty array because there are no games. So we're going to go to our trusty backend. And I'm just going to make this really tiny so that it fits right here. And we're going to type in the login action so we can get a fresh session. All right. We logged in, but we did not get what we wanted. Let's do that again. That's, not secure. Yeah, we knew that. That's weird. Why is it giving? Oh wait, it's still thinking. Bad sign. Okay, it didn't work, and there was a huge number, like 10 seconds. Curl error. Response code 0. Why is that? Let's do it again. Okay, it worked. Weird. Null, null, null. That didn't work. That's weird. Let's look into that. So, right off the bat, we have an issue. So, what is null? Wait. Username, password, did that. Oh, I forgot to put this. So we established earlier that we need to put this in here when we move this here, this API from the index into this. Now when I request, it should be okay. Let's see. Well, no. What changed? Result was null, admin false. This session token is null. We did a login here. We don't want a session token. We want a session ID, I think. Interesting. Let's request. So this is testing. This is what testing is. Okay. Session is 0. Well, that's not. Oh, that's the ID. We want the token. What have I done wrong? Let's see. Why is that? Let's take a look at how auth login works. And just make sure. Username, password. Alright, global is admin. User by username. Did create new user. Mind blown. Well, here's another example of how we could have some sort of a... Well, it's returning 0. Let me look in the database. What happened here? Session. Alright, we're going to get the table back. Session is empty. Did not have a session. Let's see here. So, let's look in the user model. Oh, no, it's still in the off model. Login. User. Find by username. So it wasn't false. There must be something else wrong. Remember I was talking about last and clear? Let's see what last says. Last says session token doesn't have a default value. Well, yeah. So what last does, so there's two scripts here. There's clear, which clears out the old log, and there's last. And you can see the date and time. That's approximately 2 minutes ago, about a minute and a half. And user was 1. It even expired. Update session token equals where ID equals 0. Why would ID be 0? Why would ID be 0? User is, well, right. So the database error was on session token doesn't have a default value. Well, of course it doesn't. So how do we let's look at session. Create new. Oh, okay. Well, why? There's like a rule. What it is that there's a rule here that I'm not following. It says not null tiny text. The default expression should be nothing. So what if I just did space? So the default is nothing. Well, it doesn't know. So the default is an empty string. Well, that didn't matter either. Let's get rid of not null. Why not? Let's turn not null off. Let's see if that helps. If you have not null and you have no default value, then this insert's not going to work. So let's do this one more time. First, we're going to clear the log. All right. Whatever. Don't worry about that. And then last, okay, there's no last log. All right, we're done with this query. We're going to go back and we're going to run, or we're going to go to the back end and we're going to run it again. Now we got a null session. That's so strange. Why is that? What's the last log? Last. No DB error this time, so we did fix that problem. We inserted, and then we tried to update it, where ID equals 1. So do we have a session? It's strange how this worked before. Now it magically does not work. We do have a session, and that's the token. So let's look back. Maybe there's a global I'm not setting properly. I see. It's the other window. Well, login. Oh, I can't use this. I know why. It's updating the global. It's not updating the local. So that's an interesting side effect. So no big deal here. It's just that the session is a global, and it modified the global value. But inside of this call to login, it's not using the global session token. So we need to set global session ID session token. So this needs to be a global. It cannot be a local like that. And well, we can at the end update it, but it doesn't really matter because we're about to leave this function. So this only really matters for login. Session is grabbed at the beginning of the request, and it's validated only at the beginning of the request. Because the request only lasts a few seconds, if the request hit the server and the session was valid, it's going to do it, whatever was requested. And then it's going to dip out on that. So we need all of the authentication information. Some of it won't be changing, like is admin and such, but others will. And as it turns out, auth login uses globals and not these localized copies that we've made for this API. So I think the idea is that, once it's in motion, we don't check the session again because it's going to be over soon. And then the next time they come back, that's when we validate their session again. So during those times, if something were to change with the session, it would have to be done in this global and not in this local. So we're good now. And this should work. So let's find out if it works. So we've made these changes. I'll just leave them there, and then we'll bring the backend back, and we'll request again. And there it is. Okay. Now we want to do the action of list, and there's no parameters. So invalid JSON. Why is that? It's an empty string. Let's take a look at the API again. Well, firstly, let's look at the last log. So we do that again back in the site root. We're looking at the last log. Action list, model instantiated game. Select star from game where status equals 0. That actually might return a null. I'm not sure why it would, but it might. I guess that's so you know specifically that there was nothing. So let's just go into shreds then. And we're going to actually go into our model for game. And we're going to go to our list. So that's interesting. So maybe select star from game where status equals 0 shouldn't return. So we can modify the model Uber class to act in a different way. But basically, we used by. I see. And what we really wanted to do was use select. So by is looking for the first one. So that's the same thing, basically. Let's see if it works this time. All we did was switch to using select, and we made it a more explicit statement. Still says invalid JSON. Let's see how. Whoop, Bobby N. Let's see how the model works around select, because I don't remember. Or I'm sorry, with by. So it does a select. It returns an empty array. I know what's wrong. I was right originally when I wrote this in joinable games. I was right to use by. By was fine. I should have stuck with it. All it's really doing is what I just drew there, or wrote. But instead, what we want to do is in the API, what we have neglected to do is send the right stuff to data. Data requires two things. So it's actually going to come back in the form of a game list. So it's a type, if you will, game list. So now if we request, it should work. Let's see. Yep, it worked. Result success, type game list values, and then nothing. An empty array. Okay, so we've got our game list. Still can't create a game, but at least we can get our list back. And we've got one more pin knockdown in this bowling game of life. And that's probably a pretty good place for me to stop on that. So now we've tied the model. Well, let's keep going. But we tied the model to an action. So this is all coming back to the action. So the player's trying to join a game. So this is where we can use can join game. So let's validate that. Can the player join a game? Well, let's double check our model for the can join game. Wow, that is slow. I don't know why that's so slow. Can join. All right, model. All right. Joinable games, create game. There's can create game. Oh yeah, you need to be able to create a game. We can do that now. No, not yet. All right, can create game. So can create game asks that. It says, are you an initiator of any games? If so, you can't. Are you playing any games? Are you in the lobby of any game? And the answer is no. so you can't, or yes, so you can't, otherwise you can. I don't know if there's any other examples of a game. So can create a game. Let's see. This episode might end abruptly. We'll see. So there's really nothing stopping us from doing this, so let's just do it. G equals new game. Actually, I don't need to do that. If game can create game, this user, then game create game user. What was the other parameter? Let's get that other one up here. Nope, that's not it. Let's get the other one up here, and let's just look at that model real quick. That's it, just create game for user. So you're initiating the game. All right, so that being said, whoa. Let's go ahead and create that game. We're going to use the API and send some data back, and it's going to be typed by game, and it's going to contain the game data. I don't think we need to hide anything there. So we did that. So action list. So now we're going to do, so what was it? Action create. Action create. And then the API is create. All right, let's create a game. So action create. Request. It said bad type or no type provided for create action. Oh, create and then type game request. It said success game value is 0. So it returned a 0. That wasn't good. We didn't want to do that. But let's look in the database real quick and see if it created a game. It did not create a game. So what's up there? Something happened. All right. Firstly, we're going to see what it's. So create does all of that. Then it runs create game. Create game checks to see if you're logged in. If not, it creates the game and it sends it to you. Let's take a look at the way the game model works. It probably needs to return to you the game. Oops, it's in another window, which is missing, and there it is. And so we're going to get out of the other one, and then we're going to go into this one. All right. Oops, I'm not sure what I did there. All right, let's go back in. Wow. All right, so create game user. Looks like all of that's good. It returned a 0 though, so there must be something wrong. So in the other window, I'm going to type last and see what happened. DB error, integrity constraint violation, initiator cannot be null. Well, why would initiator be null? Initiator is set to the user ID. The user was passed in. Is the user null at that stage? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it is. Why would the user be null? Let's find out. Let's look at who am I, or there's identify, there's me. Let's look at the me, which would be my profile. How does that work? I think I have to go out and myself, move keys. Oh, this auth, not this user. So what we'll do is we'll just make this, what does user? Let's do auth because there is no user. And let's repeat the process of creating a game. Request. Okay, it still came back with a 0. It said success. What is the initiator cannot be null? Why would it be? Insert into last state user's initiator. Initiator is null. Undefined variable user on API line 160. You see that here? It's just yet another piece of evidence something is wrong. Oh, crap. Alright. Alright. 160. Oh, user is null. This user. Jeez, man. Jeez. So, I was wrong to change that from user to user. It really is user. I don't think it is, though. Let's call it off. Let's just keep it as off. All right, let's create the game. Didn't work. Why? Let's see. Maybe it is user. Initiator's still no. Let's clear it. Make sure we're cleared out. Let's do last. Okay. There is one. Sudo clear. Shouldn't be one. Okay. All right. Let's do it. All right. It said success, but it said 0. All right. Let's just set that back then. I guess I was wrong. Guess this is user after all. I mean, it worked for list. I don't know. Did we use this? I don't know. Clear that. No, I'll probably have to sudo it. Or sudo. But I'm gonna sudo. So sudo! You know, because I played a lot of games that sounded like that when I was a kid. Like Street Fighter. Alright. How you can, you know, that kind of stuff. Alright, clear. Request. Oh, it worked. Games value 0. Did not work. List. Last. What is the problem? Initiator is 1. General error 1364. Field ready doesn't have a default value. Why would the game... Oh, ready. Yeah. So this is the not null thing. This is why you want not null. Because it's going to force you to put all the values in that you need. If you made it just laissez-faire and, you know, do whatever you want, you probably would forget to put some value in that you needed. So ready was something new we added. Ready is basically a list of pipe delimited values that indicate that a user is ready or not. So it has to be checked against when we go to start game. And there's some logic around that that's kind of similar to the way that we check if a user is a part of that group, part of that game. All right, let's do it one more time. Okay, the value is 1, which is actually the ID. So I think what we need to do here is go into game. We need it to return the value of the game, not that. So we're going to have it return g get. And get always gets by the ID, so we want to get that inserted one. Now, it probably won't work this time because we are looking to see if they have a game already. Failure message, invalid API action requested code 102. Huh. Interesting. So why is that? That's an interesting one. Why did it end up that way? Invalid API. Action requested. So that's strange to me. Why would it say that? Is that the only place it says that? That is. So it looked for the endpoint. It wasn't the index. It said failure message, invalid API action requested. Let's just send that along. Endpoint action. Forget endpoint. What? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why would that happen? It's really invalid endpoint requested here, and that would be. Except the other reason that you would be here. Well, I did a data though. Data has to end. The die or the exit has to stop things. So if that's the way you get out of it, let's see what happens when I request again. Well, let's okay. Invalid API endpoint requested is not correct. So let's look at endpoint index. So did I spell something wrong? Action, create, type game. Should do that. And then API create should do this. It should create game. Create game. If can create game. Else, okay, so result equals, right? Else API respond. What is it? API respond, or otherwise auth and transmit. No, it's auth and transmit, and then we're gonna do game or add user to game result name result. So result was stored here in this kind of hectic way. Does not equal. So we want to put this. So what this does is, in the if statement, it's going to assign result equal to the value of that returned value. And here we're going to say if it doesn't equal add user to game result success, then we're going to return the result message with a 102. That would be better. So result up. Nothing. Because I didn't do that right. Let's try that one more time. Okay, and it actually worked, and that's weird to me because it was just failing. So if result does not equal, equals, it has to equal that. That's why logic did not work. Request. All right, unknown message, unknown result can create game. Because it would be create game result. Right. Or you could just say you can't. You don't need to go through this. But it would be good for consistency, but I don't think it's really necessary. I still want to do this. All right, let's make a new enum in the game model called create game result. very similar to this one, so we're just going to grab some of it and put it up here. We could even reuse it, but it would be better not to. I think I'm going to have to get going here in a minute. We don't have to write the word user, to be honest with you. All right, I'm going to have to pause for 1 second here. All right. Right. And down here we go. You already initiated a game. Okay. Create game results. So then we have to go down here and can create game. All right. So in the first case, we're returning create game result already initiated. Otherwise, return create game result already in another game. In another game, I think. Yeah. And then the third one is create game result success. All right. Now we have that. Now we're just going to update our shred to include create game result success. Otherwise, that should all work. Now we just need to hit this button again to test it. You already initiated a game. Well, that's correct. We actually don't even need to send 102. We can send the actual result code. So the result was 2. See how that's going to work. So this 102 is arbitrary, and we didn't really create a bunch. We could create a enumerator that covers all of the 102s and change their numbers and stuff. And maybe we'll do that someday. And we could pack the messages, but it's just not necessary for that particular one. We're just trying to end the transmission as fast as possible. But in this case, might as well send the code back. So you sent the code, and you also get the message. So, all right, let's do a request then. And well, first let's go and look at the game. Oh, let's list the games. Now we should see more than one, simply because we've okay, action list. We don't even need any parameters. So we should see more than one because we have some that slipped through there. Yeah, so we do have several games, IDs 1 and 2, that have been created already by Lost Astronaut, the user, right? And there's the username. Remember when we wrote that? Like 3 episodes ago, we finally used it. We've created an empty game, and no user is ready. There's nobody in the game except the initiator. Let's look at the user list. Users 1. So initiator 1 created at this second. So that's great. So I think I'll leave it there. That's how we can sort of bring that model out into the actual API. We've got to populate the rest of these. And once we've done that, we'll have the functionality of creating a game, getting ready, clicking OK, and then starting the game. And at that point, I'm actually going to upload it to the Pixi PHP GitHub. So expect that in a few days. Thanks so much for listening, watching, participating. Please visit our Patreon. This is Retrofriends Retro Lab Code Pixitron engine. I hope you're learning as much as I am. It's a lot of fun creating a turn-based strategy game with Electron.js and Pixi.js, as well as a PHP backend. This is RFH3, H3RB, or just Herb, signing off. See you next time, Retro Friends.